For Bucks, Cavs, and Kings fans, last night was a rough one. It really was. You're the number one seed, Milwaukee Bucks, and you go down. Sacramento, you're at home. Golden State is horrible on the road, and you go down. As far as the Cavs go, not shocking that you go down. The Knicks were just a better team. Still, a disappointing end to their season. Let's go. Playoff Jimmy Butler. Playoff Jimmy is a real thing. It is a real thing. For the series, 37 points a game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Best player in the series by far. The man shot 60% from the field, 44% from three. The only thing that you could say Jimmy Butler could have improved upon, he only shot 71% from the free throw line. But he's their number one option. He is their guy. He was everything for Miami in this series on both ends of the floor. Although I want to shout out to Caleb Martin, who played terrific defense throughout the series and shot the ball well. Caleb Martin shot 43% from three, gave them 11 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Caleb Martin came up so big for Miami, along with the ghost of Duncan Robinson. Like, when's the last time Duncan Robinson, after signing that big contract, made big shots, was relevant? I mean, he was actually out of the rotation, a forgotten figure in Heat lore. Duncan Robinson averaged 10 points a game, shot 73% from three, like came to life and was big for them. Kyle Lowry, who most of us thought was done, he came up big on both ends of the floor, drawing charges, making big steals, making big shots. Like, they got big contributions, no question, from their role players. But this series, how this played out, I want to acknowledge also the defense of Bam Adebayo. Now, the numbers are solid. 17 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. The way Miami played offensively, if you watch this series, because this is big, the way they played offensively, they don't play big. Remember, it's Bam at the center spot, who's an undersized center. We all know that. And then it's Bam surrounded by guards and wing players. They don't play with a second big. Kevin Love comes off the bench, but they don't play with a second big. Like, Jimmy Butler is their big in the starting lineup. Like, they're not a big team. They were able to spread Milwaukee out. They sped up the tempo. Their offense negated what Brook Lopez had been able to do all year defensively. Their offense negated, when he came back, what Giannis was able to do defensively. And I know he probably wasn't 100%, but I'm not making excuses, because when he only played 12 to 15 minutes in game one, when he was on the floor, Jimmy Butler had established right then and there he was the best player in this series. So I'm not making any excuses for the Milwaukee Bucks. You are the number one seed. You're a top 4 defense. Your offense is run through the guy that most people would say is the best player in the NBA. But great players do have failings. Great players do come up short sometimes. And I understand Giannis didn't play but maybe a quarter of game one. Didn't come back until games 4 and 5. Those are fair statements. But at the same time, this is also a fair statement. Jimmy Butler was terrific up until games 4 and 5. But in games 4 and 5, the man that had 96 points both those games. He had 96 points when Giannis came back. He actually got better. He got more dominating when Giannis was on the floor. I really think that when you look at how the NBA is trending, and it's been this way for a while, but it's become even more noticeable in these playoffs, you're not going to be able to play with two bigs. You might be able to play with a 6'10 or 6'9 wing who's capable of playing big, but The idea of playing with two bigs, it hampers you with your spacing, it hampers your transition defense, it makes you easier to guard. I really think that when you look at what Minnesota did, which that that was insanity to begin with. Like that wasn't gonna work simply by the players that were involved. But you're not playing big like that. Look at Denver, number one seed in the West. The Nuggets don't play big like that. They've got Joker, and Joker is surrounded by wing players. That's it. They don't play big. Every now and then they'll be bringing Jeff Green, and the truth is, if you know Jeff Green, where he's at now, Uncle Jeff is more like a small ball 4-5. But early in his career, Uncle Jeff was a three. Sometimes he played four. So they don't really play old school basketball. But I digress. Back to this series. Going forward, what I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear well, Drew Holiday's overrated. I don't want to hear Drew Holiday slander. When you look at how this series was lost top to bottom. So I'm talking about coaching. I'm talking about the players as a whole. Like, you can look at the numbers. Miami shot 54% or 51%, I'm sorry, for the series. They shot 45% from three from the series. So at no point did Milwaukee's defense ever control them. There were times when the Bucks went up and they had leads because they were shooting well. For the series, the Bucks shot 47% as a team. They shot 38% from three as a team, but they could not hold leads. Think about this. Chris Middleton played in all 5 games. He led them in turnovers. He was sloppy the ball late. He had 17 turnovers in a 5-game series. Giannis only played 2 games, really, and he had 14 turnovers. Your best players, they can't be shaky with the ball late. When you're trying to hold off a team that's making a run, here's the thing that got me. When they're trying to hold off Miami, because Miami never lost confidence. Every time Milwaukee got up by double digits in games 4 and games 5, they never wavered because they knew they could walk them down. And they knew that as the game got tighter, who are they going to go to? They're going to go to Giannis. And you know Giannis won't hesitate to attack the basket. But what did Miami do very well? They fouled him. No and ones, they fouled him. They sent him to the free throw line. You're trying to stop the momentum of the other team coming on and cutting into your lead. Your offense has become stagnant. I'm talking about Milwaukee. Your offense has become stagnant. You turn to your best player. You got to make those free throws. I know he's not a great free throw shooter, but you got to make those free throws. This game is getting tighter. You can't miss 10 free throws. You can't have 7 turnovers. Like, late in the game, I thought Giannis looked un-Giannis-like. I thought Drew Holiday, who's one of the most poised guys in late game situations, he looked rattled. I thought Drew Holiday got out of his game because he let Jimmy Buckets get in his head. Drew Holiday rarely speaks on the court, and Jimmy got him chirping. Jimmy got in his head. Yes, numbers-wise, you could say, well, Drew Holiday didn't have a great series. His numbers line up with what he did with the regular season almost. He averaged 19 a game in the regular season. He averaged 18 this series. He averaged 7 assists in the regular season. He averaged 8. Averaged 5 rebounds. He averaged 6. Where Drew Holiday struggled was efficiency. During the season, 48% from the field, 38 from 3. This series, 40% from the field, 29% from 3. My frustration with Drew, who's one of my favorite players, is when you're struggling, when the ball's not going through, when your shot's not falling. He took 85 shots for the series. 42 of those were 3. You can't do that. You're not shooting the ball well. They need you attacking the basket. Drew Holiday has a bag. Drew Holiday can get in the post. He's got a deceptively clever handle. He can shoot with either hand around the rim. You needed that Drew Holiday, especially when Giannis came back, because you knew how they were going to play Giannis. And to have only 12 free throw attempts, we had one, he shot a technical. 12 free throw attempts, you're not being aggressive. Not for a 5-game series. They needed more from Drew. Look, the Bucks lost this collectively as a team. Chris Middleton, numbers wise, 24, 6, and 6. That's terrific. Shot 46% from the field, 40% from three. But the turnovers, the missed shots late, the missed defensive assignments. You saw this throughout this series. Jimmy Buckets, too big from Drew Holiday. Jimmy Buckets, too quick for Chris Middleton. They did not have a matchup for him. And once that was established, I thought Coach Bud would make the adjustment. We can't guard Jimmy Buckets. Let's double him. Let's make Strus beat us. Let's make Gabe Vincent beat us. Let's see if Bam can go for 35. Anything but let Jimmy Butler play one-on-one, and he decided to let Jimmy Butler play one-on-one. The Milwaukee Bucks, the number one seed in the East, are going home because they got outplayed. And yes, I understand Giannis didn't play in games 2 and 3, and didn't play until games 4 and 5. But when he played, if that was going to be the difference, then they would have won those games. When he played, Jimmy Butler remained the best player on the floor. I don't know what percentage Giannis was of health-wise, 85%, maybe even 100%. But at the end of the day, you get on the floor, I don't want to hear excuses. The Miami Heat advanced because they outplayed the Milwaukee Bucks. Coach Spoelstra outcoached Coach Bud. And Milwaukee needs to do some soul searching. I've heard people talk about trade this guy, trade that guy. I think that's too pie in the sky. That's too the sky's falling. Basically, it's all over. We need to give up. I'm not saying give up. That core around Giannis 28. That core, it is getting older. Middleton's 31. Holiday is 32. Brook Lopez is 34. Don't forget, Lopez and Middleton are going to be free agents. What I would say is when you look at that Milwaukee's roster, what I would say is this. They need athletes. They need a wing. They need an athletic wing who can defend and make a shot. They need a backup point guard who's able to create for himself and get buckets. They need youth. They need athleticism. When you look at Milwaukee's roster top to bottom, this is probably the most unathletic team in the NBA by far. Drew's athletic. No question Giannis is athletic. After those two guys, this is an unathletic team. They need some athletes. They need an infusion of youth. But I don't think you sit there and wreck this team. They ran into a buzzsaw. They were upset. They got upset. And look, let's see what happens going forward. Let's say they go back, bring back the core, and they're the number 1 or number 2 seed again, and they get in the playoffs, and they're 100% healthy. Let's see what happens then. Do I think they need to tweak some things, like I said, with some athleticism, some quickness, some youth? Absolutely. But to just say, like, we need to scrap this, I don't agree with that at all. I still think that this core has another run left in it. The question I would say is, do you keep Mike Budenholzer as your coach? Because I thought that his failure to make adjustments, I think that hurt this team in this series. Celtics take out the Heat 128-120 in Game 6 to end that series. Jason Tatum and Brown combined for 62 points. The Celtics advance to the Eastern Conference semis versus the Sixers. That, to me, just on its face, is a 6 or 7 game series, a must-see. For the Hawks, let me give them all the credit in the world. When I picked that series, I really did think Boston was going to win it in 5 at most. And give Trae Young, give DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, the whole crew, a lot of credit for coming back, competing, and not just winning the game for pride, but actually reaching a point where they thought they could win that series. And there were times where the Celtics did not know how to defend the high screen and roll with Trae Young. And Boston showed some vulnerabilities, late game vulnerabilities in their defensive coverages, blown coverages, as well as late game execution on offense. So if I'm a Sixer fan going forward, the Celtics look anything but unbeatable. I think when you look at Philly versus Boston, That's a pick'em series. When you look at a series like the Miami Heat with playoff Jimmy versus the Knicks and Jalen Brunson, I think the Knicks are the better team top to bottom. But I want to remind us, look, I thought the Bucks were the better team top to bottom. And sometimes games or series, they don't play out the way they do on paper. So if you're asking me to pick that, you know what? I'm going to pick this series tomorrow on Coffee and Sports in the Morning on the Empire Sports Network. I'm going to pick that series along with the Philly series tomorrow. But just at a glance, I don't think that Tom Thibodeau is going to let playoff Jimmy play one-on-one. That's not to say that Jimmy won't be effective, but I don't think they're going to let him be effective to the tune of averaging 37 points a game. And let's switch over to the West, to the more compelling series, I think, in the first round. I'm biased. Grizzlies, Lakers. It's an interesting series because even though the Lakers are up 3-2, that margin for error is so slim. If the Lakers relax again, if they come out with the same energy that they came out with game 5, if the Grizzlies come out and they attack early before the Lakers can get their defense set and their ball movement is anywhere near like it was in game 5, the Lakers are going to mess around and find themselves in a game 7 back in Memphis. And that's something they don't want. Look, for the Lakers, it's really simple. Memphis is small. You've got to punch your ticket and play to your strengths. What their strengths are, the Lakers are terrific at getting in the paint and attacking the restricted area with either LeBron James or Anthony Davis. Throw the ball into Anthony Davis, force him to be aggressive. You got to force feed him, then force feed him, because as good as Jaren Jackson Jr. is, he cannot guard Anthony Davis one-on-one. He is a terrific defender, but he excels as a weak side defender. One-on-one, Anthony Davis will dominate him. So the Lakers, to me, they have to play inside out, almost old school in this series. Versus what we see in maybe the most entertaining series of all, Sacramento versus Golden State. The defending champions did what they haven't been able to do, what most people thought they wouldn't do. They won a road game in Sacramento with that loud, insane crowd. Golden State pulls it out. They find a way. Steph makes big shots. Clay makes big shots. Wiggins makes a tough fading turnaround shot. Like every time they needed a shot late in the fourth quarter, Golden State found a way. Now, obviously, we know that De'Aaron Fox, the reigning and the first clutch player of the year in the NBA, he's not 100%. And that injury directly affects the way he can handle and shoot the basketball because it's on his dominant hand. I give him a lot of credit. Maybe he wasn't as efficient as usual, but he played really well. And had he got a more impactful game from Malik Monk or Sabonis or Kevin Huerter, who's a terrific shooter, Huerter has not been heard from this series. Like he just hasn't had the same impact that he's had throughout the season. They need regular season Kevin Huerter to merge with playoff Kevin Huerter. Regular season Kevin Huerter, 48% from the field, 40 from 3. They need that guy. They need that confidence that he brought to the team. They need that for game 6. They're also going to need a more assertive, a more forceful Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis has got to be a lot more forceful. He's got to have a bigger impact on both ends of the floor, even though I know he's not an elite defender. He is a terrific team defender, and he can do the one thing that complements great defense. You end possessions by getting that board. So I need not 12 boards on game 6. If I'm a Kings fan, we're looking for 16, 17 boards. We're looking to see him go to the ground and compete for 50-50 balls. If you want to see a 7-game series, you're going to need that kind of effort from Sabonis as well as Huerter and others, because your best player is compromised and he's going to need you guys to get his back. That's all I have for right now, fellas. What we'll do is I'll come back next week. We'll talk about the starts to these playoff series and maybe even get into a little bit of projection of what teams might want to do going into the offseason. It's the NBA Cypher. Next time.